It was evening on Tuesday, March 1st, 1932. Charles and Lindbergh finished dinner at their large country house near the village of Hopewell in New Jersey, USA, and Charles Lindbergh went to work in his library. Soon after 9 p.m., he heard a noise like something breaking, but it was a stormy night, and he thought it was probably thunder. His wife heard nothing. Upstairs, their son, Charles Jr., often called Littlet, was asleep in his bed. Just after 10 p.m., Betty Gow, the child's nurse, went to check that Charles Jr. was all right. She found the little bed empty and the child missing. Quickly, she went to find Mrs. Lindbergh, but the boy was with neither his mother nor his father. In the child's bedroom, the window was open and there was rainwater and dirt on the floor. There was also an envelope. Lindbergh called the police and they hurried to the house. Detectives quickly found a rough wooden ladder about 25 meters from the window of the child's bedroom and 2 footprints in the garden. The top step of the ladder was broken, and Charles Lindbergh remembered the noise he had heard earlier. A detective checked the envelope for fingerprints, but found none. He opened it. Inside was a note in poor English. "Dear Sir, have $50,000 ready, $25,000 in $20 bills, $15,000 in $10 bills, and $10,000 in $5 bills. After 4 days, we will inform you where to deliver the money. We warn you for making any ding public or for notifying the police. The child is in good care." At the bottom of the ladder were 2 open blue circles and a filled blue circle where they touched. The Lindberghs were very rich and famous people. Charles Lindbergh was the first man to fly a plane alone across the Atlantic, from New York to Paris in 33.5 hours in 1927. And Lindbergh was the daughter of Dwight Morrow, one of the richest bankers in the East. And now, their son had been kidnapped. Soon, all America heard the news on the radio or read it in their newspapers the next morning. President Hoover promised to do everything he could to see that the kidnappers were caught. Al Capone, the famous American criminal who was in prison at that time, offered to help find the child through his friends and contacts in the criminal world. For this, he wanted his freedom. The U.S. government refused his offer. Usually, the Lindberghs only went to their Hopewell home at weekends. Normally, they spent the rest of the week with Lindbergh's family in Englewood, which was nearer to New York. But Charles Jr. had caught a cold, and Mrs. Lindbergh wanted him to stay at Hopewell until he was better. So how did the kidnappers know that the Lindberghs were there that Tuesday evening? It was one of the first questions detectives asked. People working for the Lindberghs were immediately suspected of having a part in the kidnapping. The child's nurse, Betty Gow, was questioned carefully, but the police finally let her go. Another woman working at the Lindberghs' house, 28-year-old Violet Sharp, first told the police that she was at the cinema on the night of the kidnapping. Later, she changed her story and said that she had been with a man. In May, she changed her story again. On June 10, when she heard that the police wanted to question her once more, she killed herself. Lindbergh told the newspapers that he would not try to injure the kidnappers if they returned the boy safely when they got the money. He then hired 2 criminals to try and contact the kidnappers. But before Lindbergh's helpers could do anything, the kidnappers made contact with Dr. John Francis Condon, a 72-year-old teacher who sometimes wrote for the New York paper Bronx Home News. He was told to take Lindbergh's money to the Woodlawn Cemetery in the Bronx. A meeting time was arranged over the telephone, and Condon went to the cemetery. He saw an Italian-looking man walk by with something across half his face, and guessed that the man was checking to see if there were any police or detectives around. Then Condon saw a second man standing in the shadows, his hat pulled down over his face and something covering his mouth. When the second man spoke, Condon recognized the voice. It was the man who had spoken to him on the telephone. He was about 35 years old and had brown hair. He said his name was John, and that there were 6 people in the gang, 2 of them women. He told Condon that the child was well, but then asked, "Would I burn if the baby is dead? Would I burn if I did not kill it? Why would I burn?" He meant would he die in the electric chair, the punishment used in America at that time, for kidnappers and murderers. Condon saw the danger at once. If the police caught a kidnapper, he would die, whether the kidnapped child lived or not. So if a kidnapper thought he was going to be caught, he would kill the child. Condon and the man made more arrangements to contact each other. Then Cemetery John, as he became known, disappeared into the night. Several more messages were passed between the 2 men, and then Condon received a package in the post. Inside were Charles Lindbergh Jr.'s sleeping suit and a note making arrangements for the money to be handed to the kidnappers. At 7:45 p.m. on Saturday, April 2, 1932, Condon and Lindbergh went to Raymond Cemetery in the Bronx. Lindbergh waited in the car, while Condon went into the cemetery. They both heard a voice shout, "Hey Doc!" Soon after, the man calling himself John appeared with his hat pulled down over his face. "I have $50,000, said Condon. The man gave him a note. It said that the boy was on a boat called Nellie, near the Elizabeth Islands off the coast of Massachusetts. Lindbergh searched for several days, but he never found the boat. Then on May 12, 2 lorry drivers found the body of Charles Lindbergh Jr. in some woods about 7 kilometers from the Lindbergh's Hopewell house. He had died only a few hours after the kidnapping on March 1. The police knew the numbers on the dollar bills which Condon gave to the kidnappers, and they began to watch for them. But it was September 16, 1934, before detectives caught a 34-year-old German, Bruno Richard Hauptmann, when he paid for petrol with a $10 bill, one of the Cemetery John bills. When Hauptmann was arrested, police found another of the bills in his pocket, and at his home. He discovered another $13,760 of Lindbergh's money. They also learned that Hauptmann was a carpenter whose job it was to make things from wood, like ladders. Hauptmann said that the money belonged to a business friend, Isidor Fisch, who had gone back to Germany and died there in March 1934. Hauptmann said Fisch had left the money behind when he went to Germany, and because Fisch had owed Hauptmann about $7,500, Hauptmann had taken it. "I had no part in the kidnapping," Hauptmann told detectives, "and I did not write the notes to Lindbergh," but the police refused to believe him, and they said that the writing on the notes was the same as Hauptmann's. At the trial, in January 1935, Charles Lindbergh said that he recognized Hauptmann's voice. He also changed his story. He now said that Cemetery John had called, "Hey Doctor," and not "Hey Doc," and that he had spoken with a foreign accent. Dr. Condon, who was at first not sure that Hauptmann was Cemetery John when questioned by the police, said at the trial that he was now sure that the German was the man to whom he had spoken in the cemetery. The jury believed both men. Hauptmann said that he had been working in New York at the time of the kidnapping. His wife and employer both agreed with this, although his employer would not speak at the trial, but the papers to prove it could not be found. The jury finally decided that Bruno Hauptmann,